The sky above Meridian Station tore apart like paper in a storm. A single blazing streak of light screamed across the heavens, splitting the soft lavender horizon. Alara, the station's youngest communications officer, pressed her palms to the cold metal of the observation deck and gasped. She had never felt terror like this. Not in the simulations, not in the drills, not in the stories her grandmother whispered about Earth's ancient wars. The streak didn't vanish. It exploded. The vibration rolled through the station like a giant heartbeat, knocking Alara off balance. Emergency lights flickered, casting long, trembling shadows across the walls. Through the chaos, a deep, resonant hum began, a sound that seemed alive, crawling into every corner of the station. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't the engines. It was something older, something deliberate. "Report," Commander Kale's voice cut through the panic. His face, etched with years of discipline, was pale but determined. He moved with a precision born from countless battles, but even he could not hide the edge of fear in his eyes. "They're here," Alara stammered, her voice barely audible over the hum. "Ships. Massive. Not from any known fleet." Kale's jaw tightened. He had heard rumors, warnings that humanity was not alone, but nothing prepared him for the reality. "Alert all sectors. Activate defensive protocols. Do not engage until I give the order." And then the first attack came. The alien vessels were beautiful and horrifying at the same time, smooth as glass, shimmering with colors that didn't exist in any human palette. They sliced through space with an elegance that mocked the crude firepower of Meridian's defenses. In minutes, they struck with precision. Energy beams lanced through the station's shields, cutting into living quarters, research labs, and the precious life pods where newborns slept. Alara watched in frozen horror as one beam struck the nursery. A scream ripped from her throat. She couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. She could only watch. Somewhere deep in the shadows of the observation deck, she felt a presence. A small hand slipped into hers. It was Joren, the station's youngest engineer, no older than 10. His wide, terrified eyes clung to hers, and he whispered, "Why?" Alara had no answer. There was no reason in this destruction, no logic in this carnage. Only the undeniable truth. Someone or something had chosen to wound the innocent. The station shuddered again, this time more violently. Alarm bells screamed as Kale's voice commanded, "Evacuate non-essential personnel. We will regroup and counterattack. Humanity will survive this." But the aliens didn't give them time. They descended in synchronized perfection, small strike pods weaving through the station's corridors, seeking out humans with surgical cruelty. Their attacks were not random. They spared nothing that reminded them of human innocence, the laughter of children, the warmth of families, the hope of discovery. Alara grabbed Joren and ran through the chaos. Hearts pounding, feet skidding over debris, she passed bodies of colleagues, some injured, some already gone. The scent of burning metal and fear filled her lungs, but she did not stop. She would not stop. Not for herself. Not for Joren. Not while the aliens continued to wound what could not defend itself. Somewhere, far above, Kale coordinated their fragile defenses. But Alara felt the weight of the moment more keenly. Humanity had been naive. Humanity had trusted that the universe was fair. And now, in the silent screams of the fallen, she understood that survival required something more, something fiercer, more precise, more human than anything the stars had yet faced. A voice crackled over the comms, trembling but firm. "Meridian Station is lost, but humanity will not bow. We will deliver surgical retribution." The words hit Alara like a wave. They were not just a promise, they were a vow. Somewhere in the chaos, humanity's spark still burned. And even as the aliens struck with perfection, that spark would find a way to fight back. Alara tightened her grip on Joren's hand. Somewhere deep in her chest, a fire ignited. Not anger, not hatred, but an unwavering resolve. They had wounded the innocent. Humanity would respond, not blindly, not in rage, but with precision, with intelligence, with a force that would be remembered in the stars. The station groaned under another attack, and Alara felt herself being thrown to the ground. But she rose again, eyes blazing with determination. Somewhere, in the infinite darkness of space, humanity was taking its first step toward retribution, and the universe would learn that humanity never forgives those who harm the innocent. Alara stumbled through the twisted corridors of Meridian Station, Joren clinging to her side like a frightened shadow. The air smelled of scorched metal and fear, thick enough to taste. Overhead, sparks rained from broken conduits, and the hum of the alien assault reverberated through the hull. A constant, almost sentient reminder that they were not alone, and that they were being hunted. "Stay close," Alara whispered, forcing her voice steady. She could feel Joren trembling. The boy had never known war. He had never known fear that could crush a person's chest. And now the universe had shown him its cruelest face. They ducked into a maintenance shaft, narrowly missing a strike pod that whistled past with deadly precision. Alara pressed herself against the wall, heart hammering, and allowed herself a single shaky breath. They wanted the babies," Joren said, voice breaking. "Why?" Alara shook her head. "Because they think innocence is weakness. But they don't understand humans. Humans protect what is precious. Humans fight." Her words sounded hollow even to her. How could humans fight against beings who moved through space as if the laws of physics were their servants? Yet somewhere deep in her chest, that fire, the spark she had felt on the observation deck, burned brighter. Far above, Commander Kyle stood at the command console, eyes scanning the enemy fleet. Every report confirmed the same horrifying pattern. The aliens were not attacking out of conquest or hunger. They were precise, surgical. Innocents, families, scientists, anything that represented hope was their target. Kyle's hand clenched the console. He could feel the weight of humanity pressing down on him. Failure was not an option. Not now, not ever. And he had a plan. A dangerous, audacious plan that required the very humans he commanded to act not just with courage, but with the precision that had defined their species for millennia. "Alara, this is Kale," the comm crackled in her ear. His voice was firm, a lifeline through the chaos. "Head to the engineering bay. We've prepared something they won't expect." Alara hesitated. Engineering was at the heart of the station, at the heart of vulnerability. But there was no choice. She nodded to Joren, who clung to her like a lifeline, and ran, moving through corridors now warped by explosions and fire. Every step felt like stepping through history itself. Every broken panel and twisted wire a testament to human resilience under unimaginable pressure. The path was treacherous. Strike pods swooped down with deadly grace, their beams slicing through walls with terrifying accuracy. Alara dodged, rolled, and pushed forward, each movement a choreography of desperation and instinct. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she wondered, how could something so alien strike with such precision? How could they know exactly what would hurt the most? And then she saw it. A small cluster of life pods still glowing faintly in the dim emergency lights. The pods housed the youngest, the purest, the most innocent among them, and she felt a surge of fury so raw it almost overpowered fear. "They will not touch them," she whispered to herself. "Not while I draw breath." By the time she reached the engineering bay, Kale and a handful of surviving crew were already at work. A strange humming device pulsed with energy, its design unlike anything human had ever created. "What is it?" Alara asked, awe mingling with exhaustion. Kale didn't answer immediately. His eyes were fixed on the schematics displayed across the console. "It's a Retribution engine," he said finally. "Not just weapons. Not just force. Precision. Surgical precision. We target only what harmed the innocent. Nothing else. Nothing collateral. We'll hit their fleet where it hurts the most and only where it matters." Alara's breath caught. This was more than revenge. This was justice delivered with human intelligence, human restraint, human heart. It was what separated them from the aliens. The ability to feel, to choose, to act deliberately in a way the universe rarely expected. "And you think it will work?" she asked. Kale looked at her, and in his gaze she saw the weight of every human life lost today. Every scream. Every child. Every hope that had been wounded. "It has to," he said. "Because we are human, and humans do not bow to terror. Humans do not forgive those who harm the innocent. We deliver justice, surgical, precise, unforgettable." Alara swallowed, feeling that spark ignite into a flame. For the first time since the attack began, she felt hope. Not blind hope, not the wishful thinking of the naive, but hope forged in fire, tempered by fear, sharpened by loss. Outside, the hum of the alien fleet continued. But inside the station, within these walls of shattered metal and bleeding courage, humanity prepared its first strike. And the universe, vast and indifferent, was about to learn something profound. Humans were patient. Humans were resilient. And humans, when defending the innocent, were unstoppable. Alara gripped Joren's hand again, her resolve unwavering. They thought they could hurt the helpless, she whispered. They were wrong. Humanity answers. The countdown began. The silence before a storm is never quiet. It is a tension that wraps itself around every nerve, every heartbeat. In the engineering bay of Meridian Station, Alara felt it pressing against her chest. The Retribution engine hummed, a heartbeat in its own right, alive with human ingenuity and vengeance. Outside, the alien fleet moved with terrifying elegance, unaware that their victims were preparing the first blow of calculated fury. Kale's voice snapped through the comms. All personnel stations secure. Engineering crew begin calibration. Alara, Joren, stay close. Alara glanced at the boy. His small face, pale but resolute, mirrored her own determination. Fear was still there, a constant companion, but it had sharpened into focus. He was human. She was human. And they were about to strike back, not blindly, not in rage, but with precision. The countdown ticked, each second echoing in the metallic corridors like a drumbeat. Every step, every motion was synchronized. Alara felt the strange thrill of anticipation mixed with terror. The human spirit, she realized, thrived not despite fear, but because of it. 3, 2, 1. The Retribution engine flared. A beam of brilliant energy shot into the darkness of space, invisible to the alien fleet at first, traveling faster than light, guided by the intelligence of humanity itself. It did not scatter. It did not waver. It moved with purpose, tracking only those vessels responsible for the attacks on the innocent. Explosions rippled across the alien formation, precise and surgical. Not a single vessel was wasted on impulse. Not a single life was harmed unnecessarily. The aliens shrieked in a soundless fury, their movements jerky, unpredictable for the first time. For the first time, their perfection faltered. Alara and Joren pressed against the bulkhead, watching the pulse of human ingenuity rewrite the rules of engagement. There was awe in her heart, but deeper than awe was a quiet satisfaction, the feeling of finally being able to protect what was most precious. They didn't expect this, Joren whispered. They weren't ready. No, Alara said, her voice steady. They never expect humans to fight with heart, only with weapons, only with logic. They forget that humans have both. Kyle's voice cut through the comm. We are not done. Keep focus. Every strike counts. Precision over destruction. Humanity must be remembered not for wrath but for intelligence, for justice. And so they continued. Each pulse from the engine struck with deliberate accuracy. The aliens attempted retaliation, but every maneuver was countered before it could form. Meridian Station became a symphony of human ingenuity against alien perfection. In the midst of it, Alara noticed something that made her stomach twist. The aliens were adaptive. They were learning. Each strike they survived made them faster, smarter, more ruthless. The human advantage, calculation and morality, was a fragile weapon. One mistake, one miscalculation, and it could all fall apart. Yet in that fragility, Alara also saw beauty. Humanity's resolve was not brute force, it was resilience. Every human aboard the station, every mind, every hand, every heartbeat, contributed to a precision that the universe had never witnessed. And as the alien formation began to falter, breaking into disarray under human strategy, Alara felt something swell within her, a fierce pride, unyielding and pure. We're doing it, she said, almost in disbelief. We're protecting them. Kale's voice, calm but charged with authority, answered, and we will continue. This is only the beginning. Humanity does not stop. Humanity does not falter, and humanity never forgets who it defends. Outside, the alien fleet faltered further. The precision that had made them so terrifying now turned against them by the very force they sought to destroy. Humanity's first strike was surgical, precise, and unforgettable. Yet Alara knew the victory was only temporary. The enemy would adapt. They would learn. And the human cost, already high, could rise even higher. She turned to Joren. Remember this moment, she said. Remember that even when everything seems lost, humans never stop fighting for what's right. That is our power. Joren nodded, his fear tempered now by understanding. He saw it, the truth of humanity's spirit. They were fragile. They were vulnerable, But they were relentless. Kale's voice resonated one last time in the bay. Prepare for counter-response. The next phase begins. Humanity delivers, but humanity also protects. This is not vengeance. This is surgical retribution. And somewhere, in the infinite darkness beyond the station, the aliens realized that the humans they had sought to destroy were not merely fighting. They were teaching the universe a lesson in patience, intelligence, and the enduring power of compassion. Alara gripped Joren's hand again. Heart steady now, mind sharp. They had struck first. They had protected some. And humanity, relentless as ever, would not stop until every innocent was safe, every wrong accounted for, and every wound avenged with precision that could only come from the heart. The war was far from over. But the first strike had spoken. Humanity fights not with blind fury, but with purpose, precision, and a resolve that echoes across the stars, and the universe would remember it. The victory was brief. Meridian Station trembled as alarms screamed anew, sharper this time. The alien fleet, once methodical and predictable, had changed. The humans' first strike had forced them to adapt, and now they moved like shadows, invisible until they struck. Their precision had not diminished. It had evolved, becoming something almost sentient. Alara felt it in her bones. Something was watching her, not just the fleet outside, but the shadows within the station itself. Every corridor held uncertainty, every corner a potential threat. Joren clung tighter to her hand, eyes wide, whispering, "Are they inside?" "They could be anywhere," Alara admitted, though her voice tried to mask the fear. "But we can survive. We have to." Commander Kale moved through the command center like a force of nature, issuing orders that were calm, controlled, deliberate. "Lock down non-essential areas," he said. "Do not engage blindly. Every move counts. Humanity has strength not just in numbers, but in understanding, in patience." The humans had learned quickly. After their first strike, they realized that survival was no longer about simple retaliation. The aliens had intelligence. They adapted. And in the adaptation, they became more dangerous than any mindless army could ever be. Alara and Joren joined the engineering crew, reinforcing sections of the station most vulnerable to the enemy's evolving tactics. Every panel, every conduit, every hatch became a lifeline. Every human hand mattered. Every human thought mattered. And yet the strain began to show. Exhaustion twisted their movements. Fear crept in despite resolve. Humans were strong, but humans were mortal. Kale's voice came again, tense but steady. "We are not just fighting for survival. We are fighting for the innocent. Every child, every family, every hope that has survived this attack depends on our choices." Alara felt the truth of his words in the pit of her stomach. Each decision carried weight. One wrong move, one hesitation, and countless lives could be lost. The burden of protecting the helpless was heavier than any weapon, more exacting than any calculation. The aliens struck with a subtlety that was terrifying. They no longer attacked in predictable beams of destruction. They moved through ventilation shafts, appeared in empty corridors, and even mimicked human sounds, cries, footsteps, the comforting murmur of the station's automated systems, using these illusions to lure humans into traps. Alara and Joren navigated these treacherous paths, senses heightened, every sound a potential threat. They had to trust instincts honed by terror and necessity, and even then, the unknown loomed large. During a particularly tense moment in the hydroponics wing, a strike pod appeared from nowhere, humming with lethal intent. Alara dove, dragging Joren behind a mass of twisted metal, barely escaping the energy beam that cut the wall in half. Her heart raced, but she forced herself to breathe. Calm, she reminded herself. Precision. Every step must count. Somewhere deep in the station, Kale and his team were executing the next phase of their counterattack, a web of surgical strikes designed not just to repel the aliens, but to understand them, to learn their weaknesses and exploit them without unnecessary destruction. Alara realized something vital as she watched the energy flow through the station's conduits. Humanity's power wasn't in brute force. It was in intelligence, in restraint, in the ability to feel deeply and choose wisely. The aliens may be perfect killers, but humans had something they did not. The moral compass to fight for others, to protect life instead of simply destroying it. And yet, the cost was high. Every successful maneuver was accompanied by loss. Colleagues who had trained alongside them were gone, their absence leaving echoes in every corridor. The humans' faces bore exhaustion, grief, and determination all at once. They were vulnerable, but they were also unbreakable. Alara and Joren finally reached a secured observation point, overlooking a section of the fleet that had ventured close. She saw the alien ships shifting, retreating slightly, recalculating. It was a small victory, but one that confirmed what Kale had insisted all along. Humanity's resolve forced the enemy to adapt, which meant humanity still had control over how the war would unfold. Alara squeezed Joren's hand. "We can do this," she said. "We have to. They've wounded the innocent, but we're human. We endure, we fight, and we protect." For the first time in what felt like hours, she allowed herself a flicker of hope. It was fragile, yes, but it was enough. Enough to fuel action, enough to sharpen thought, enough to remind them all why they fought. Kale's voice crackled over the comm once more. "This is not just survival. This is humanity defining itself. Every choice we make, every life we save, every strike we deliver, it speaks louder than any weapon ever could. They may have wounded the innocent, but humanity answers, not with anger, but with precision. Surgical retribution." Alara's gaze met Joren's, and in that brief exchange she understood something profound. The fight was not just against aliens. It was against despair, against the creeping fear that could weaken hearts. Humanity's weapon was its spirit, and that spirit burned brighter than any fleet in the universe. Outside, the alien fleet adapted, moved, and prepared for their next strike. Inside, humanity braced, calculated, and endured, and in the quiet moments between attacks, in the silent heartbeat of the station, Alara realized something essential. The war was far from over, but the human soul, the unyielding, brilliant human soul, would never bow to cruelty. Even in the shadows, humanity shone. The station had grown quiet, too quiet. Alara moved cautiously through the dim corridors of Meridian Station, each step calculated, each breath measured. The hum of the alien fleet outside had diminished, replaced by a tense silence that felt alive. Watching, something was coming. She could feel it in the vibrations beneath her feet, in the faint shiver running down her spine. Joren clung to her hand, smaller than ever, his eyes wide and bright with both fear and determination. "Do you think they're scared of us?" he asked. Alara hesitated. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to believe that their surgical retribution had shaken the alien invaders, that humanity's precision and courage had forced even a perfect enemy to pause. But deep down she knew fear was not the point. Humanity didn't need the aliens to be afraid. They needed them to stop harming the innocent, and if fear could not stop them, something else would. Up ahead, the command center was alive with activity. Commander Kale and the remaining crew monitored the fleet, each operator focused, each mind sharp. Their fingers danced over consoles, guiding energy pulses, rerouting defenses, and plotting strikes with the exacting precision of master strategists. "Alara," Kale called, voice calm but urgent. "We've located a concentration of their assault units. They're attempting to isolate the life pods in the eastern sector. You and Joren need to reinforce those areas. It will be dangerous, but every second counts." Dangerous didn't begin to describe it. Alara glanced at the monitors, seeing alien pods weaving through the station's passages with uncanny intelligence. These weren't random attacks. The aliens had learned, adapted, and now moved with a cunning that rivaled human calculation. But Alara also understood one thing humans always carried: resilience. Fear could sharpen instincts, desperation could ignite ingenuity, and hope could drive impossible acts of courage. They moved fast, navigating the twisting corridors, scanning for threats at every turn. Alara noticed subtle signs of alien presence, shadows that lingered too long, reflections that did not match the station's lights, vibrations that whispered warnings in her bones. When they reached the eastern sector, the horror became clear. One of the life pods had been struck. A child no older than Joren floated inside the broken enclosure, unconscious but alive. The damage had been precise. The alien strike had been surgical but imperfect. Humanity could still save this life. Alara's hands trembled, but her resolve hardened. "We protect them," she whispered, lifting the boy into her arms. "Every single one. No matter what it takes," Joren watched, understanding without words. Alara wasn't just leading him through danger. She was teaching him what it meant to be human, to fight with courage, to protect the innocent, and to endure even when hope seemed fragile. As they moved to secure the area, alarms blared. Another pod appeared, faster and smarter than any before. Alara ducked, rolling with Joren behind a support column as the alien craft's beam scorched the floor where they had just stood. Kale's voice cut through the comms, sharp and precise. Use the pulse modulators. Target only the pods that threaten life. Keep it surgical. Remember what we fight for. The pulse modulators hummed to life, emitting controlled bursts of energy that disrupted the alien pods' targeting systems. The pods shuddered, faltered, and then retreated. Precision had won again. Not destruction for its own sake, but calculated defense for every innocent life. Alara felt a surge of triumph, but it was tempered with exhaustion. Every human on the station bore scars now, some visible, some hidden deep in their minds. Fear was a constant companion, grief a shadow that never left. Yet through it all they endured. Through fire, silence, and relentless pressure, humanity endured. Joren tugged at her sleeve. We did it, didn't we? Alara knelt to meet his gaze. Yes, she said. But we will keep doing it. We protect the innocent because it is who we are. That is the strength the universe cannot measure. Outside, the alien fleet adjusted again. They were learning, adapting, probing weaknesses, testing defenses. But Meridian Station had changed too. Humans had endured, adapted, and now struck with a precision that was almost uncanny, a force tempered by morality and purpose. Kale's voice resonated through the station one last time before the next engagement. They may have thought us fragile. They may have believed that fear could stop us. But humans fight not because we are unafraid, but because we endure, and we endure to protect what is precious. Surgical retribution is not just a weapon, it is humanity itself. Alara straightened, gripping Joren's hand. Somewhere deep in the station, somewhere beyond the dark expanse of space, humanity had shown the first true sign of its strength. They had fought not out of anger, not out of hatred, but with precision, heart, and unyielding resolve. The alien fleet was not defeated. But they had underestimated the one weapon they could never understand, the human spirit. And that weapon would only grow stronger with every life saved, every strike delivered, and every moment of courage that refused to bend under fear. Alara's eyes swept the dark corridors ahead, unflinching. The fight was far from over, but humanity would not yield. Not now. Not ever. Meridian Station shivered under the weight of the alien fleet's renewed assault. The shadows were no longer random, they were coordinated, intentional, a living web of threat that tested every nerve, every decision, every ounce of human ingenuity. Alara moved through the corridors with Joren close behind, eyes sharp, senses alive with tension. Every flicker of light, every distant vibration could signal an attack. The fleet outside had evolved once again, probing for weaknesses, learning from every strike humanity had delivered. And yet humanity had evolved too, adapting, responding, planning its surgical counterstrike. Kale's voice cut through the comms. Calm, measured, yet carrying the weight of unshakable determination. This is it. The final sequence. All remaining pulse modulators and defensive arrays are engaged. Today we do not just survive, we strike. Surgical precision. Every action counts. Humanity answers. Alara felt the intensity of his words settle in her chest. It was more than strategy. It was purpose. It was the quiet promise that humanity, in all its fragility, could endure, fight, and prevail. They reached the central control chamber, the heart of Meridian's counteroffensive. Engineers and operators moved with a rhythm born of necessity, eyes scanning data streams, hands adjusting delicate arrays of energy pulses. The station's Retribution engine hummed with life, ready to deliver what Kale called precision justice. Alara and Joren joined them, their presence small yet vital. Even in the midst of chaos, humans could make a difference, not with brute strength but with courage, focus, and resolve. Outside, the alien fleet twisted and turned, probing, adapting. They had learned from every strike, every maneuver, and yet they had not understood the human capacity for foresight, for strategy informed by empathy, morality, and the unwavering commitment to protect the innocent. The first strike was launched. Unlike before, this was not reactive. This was deliberate, calculated, surgical, beams of energy, invisible until impact, swept through the fleet. targeting only the units responsible for the attacks on life pods and the station's most vulnerable areas. The aliens faltered, their formation breaking under the precision of human strategy. But the victory came at a cost. One of the station's senior engineers, Maris, did not survive the counter-offensive. A strike pod had breached the corridor as she activated a pulse array. Alara and Joren watched, helpless as the life she had dedicated to protecting others was extinguished. Grief struck with full force, but Alara forced herself to breathe, to focus. Humanity endured through loss. That was its power. Kale's voice broke the moment, steady yet raw. We honor every life lost by ensuring that no one else suffers. This is not revenge. This is justice. Alara felt the truth of that. Humans were fragile, yes. Mortal. But they had something the aliens could never replicate. Heart. Morality. A capacity to endure suffering and still act with purpose. The aliens, realizing their attacks were being nullified, launched an unprecedented maneuver, a concentrated strike toward the station's core, designed to disable life support and destroy the Retribution engine in one blow. Meridian Station shook violently. Sparks flew. Alarm screamed. The hum of the engine threatened to falter. Kale's hands flew over the controls. Divert all energy to shields. Focus modulators on strike pods. Precision focus. Alara and Joren joined the effort, rerouting conduits, stabilizing energy flows. Sweat ran down her face, exhaustion clawing at her limbs. But she did not stop. Humans did not stop. Humans fought for others. For the innocent. For life itself. The station held barely. The alien maneuver failed to break the human line. The Retribution engine recalibrated and launched a final decisive strike. A sweep through the fleet, identifying only those ships that had wounded the innocent. Explosions rippled outward with surgical precision. The alien formation shattered beyond recovery. Alara dropped to the floor, chest heaving. Joren hugged her, both of them trembling, not from fear now, but from the weight of what they had endured, and the clarity of what it meant to be human. Kale's voice came through, resolute. Humanity has delivered justice, not out of hatred but out of principle. We protect the innocent. That is our power. That is our answer to those who thought we could be broken. For a brief moment, the station was silent. The fleet had withdrawn, scattered by human precision. Lives were saved. Innocence preserved. Humanity had endured through fire, fear, grief, and relentless pressure. Alara looked at Joren, his eyes reflecting both relief and awe. We did it, she whispered. Yes, he said. Because we're human. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. The universe was vast, indifferent, and still dangerous. But humanity had left its mark. A declaration not just of survival, but of resolve, intelligence, and unwavering moral courage. Alara realized as she rose to her feet that this was what defined them. Not power, not numbers, not weapons alone. Humanity's strength lay in its heart, in its capacity to endure, to protect, to act with precision guided by empathy. And the universe, for all its indifference, would never forget it. The stars were quiet. Meridian Station floated in space, battered but unbroken. Smoke curled from damaged conduits, flickering lights cast shadows along the warped metal walls, and yet, in the heart of the station, a new calm had settled. The alien fleet had withdrawn, scattered by the precision of human resolve. Humanity had endured, and it had delivered justice, not recklessly, not in anger, but with clarity, purpose, and heart. Alara stood on the observation deck, looking out at the void. The silence was almost deafening after days of alarms, explosions, and the relentless hum of alien engines. She held Joren close, his small hand clutching hers, steady now, no longer trembling. They had survived. And more importantly, they had protected what was precious. Somewhere in the command center, Kale spoke to the remaining crew. His voice was calm, measured, carrying the weight of triumph and grief alike. We have endured, he said. We have protected the innocent. We have struck with precision, and we have reminded the universe that humanity will never bow to cruelty. Alara thought of Maris, of those who had given everything to shield others, and a quiet sorrow settled over her. Yet within that sorrow was pride, the knowledge that their sacrifices were not in vain. Humanity's courage had become a shield, a weapon, and a statement that innocence would always be defended. The station's life pods were secure. Children slept peacefully, unaware of the battles that had raged to protect them. Scientists returned to their work, engineers repaired the station's vital systems, and humanity's indomitable spirit hummed quietly through the metal veins of Meridian Station. Joren leaned against Alara, eyes wide and thoughtful. "Do you think they'll come back?" he asked softly. Alara looked down at him, seeing not just fear but understanding, the knowledge that humans could endure, and that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could prevail. "Maybe," she said, "but we're ready. We'll always protect the innocent. That is who we are. That is what makes us human." The words carried a resonance that went beyond the two of them. Humanity had shown the universe something profound, that the true measure of strength was not the ability to destroy but the courage to protect. Not the might to conquer but the resolve to endure. Not the skill to dominate but the heart to act with precision and justice. Kale approached, placing a firm hand on Alara's shoulder. "The fight may continue, but we have proven a truth no one can take away," he said. "They wounded the innocent. So humanity delivered surgical retribution, and in doing so we have written our mark across the stars." Alara nodded, a quiet flame of determination still burning within her. The battle had tested every ounce of their courage, every skill honed by experience and instinct, every thread of moral fiber that made them human. Yet through it all they had endured. They had struck with intelligence, restraint, and above all, heart. The station hummed softly, a lullaby of survival. Alara let herself breathe for the first time in days. Joren leaned against her, and she felt the fragile yet unyielding pulse of hope. They had endured horror, grief, and fear, and emerged with something stronger than weapons, stronger than strategy. They had emerged with the essence of humanity itself. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, indifferent and infinite, and yet within that vast darkness Meridian Station shone, a beacon of resilience, a testament to what humans could achieve when driven by heart, purpose, and the unwavering determination to protect the innocent. Alara whispered to herself almost as a vow, "We are human. We endure, we protect, and we will never forget." Joren repeated softly, "We are human." And in the quiet, fragile peace that followed the storm, humanity's voice echoed across the void, a declaration that innocence would always be defended, that precision and heart would always guide their retribution, and that even in the face of the universe's harshest trials, humans would endure, shine, and prevail. The stars listened, and humanity's answer rang clear, bright, and eternal.